is, for some odd reason, let's say they don't, they may call and it would be nice to know, well, your child actually is an above level thinker. They just,
Are lazy.
knocked off on, right, it very well could be, that could be the answer. I don't want to say that, but that very well could be the answer. They were lazy.
Right.
They blew through the test. I mean, that's I think it's worth exploring, Mark, to see what level of detail we can get on Skyward, considering the fact that the assessments aren't going to go home.
Yeah, a clarification on that, it's the written assessments.
Understood, correct.
That are going over with the students, and there's a lot of quizzes and so on.
That
Any
will go.
parent can come in and talk with a teacher and sit down and say, I'd like to see this math assessment or science.
Right.
But for obvious reasons, we do want to keep them secure.
Thoroughly understood,
Okay.
thoroughly understood. But what used to be able to take place at home now needs to have a call, a conference, and a scheduled meeting. So I mean, because the written assessment's not going home. so now
Only the
you're-
common assessments that are written.
Okay. All right.
There's lots of other things that'll still be going
This
home.
particular example test, a common
Assessment.
written assessment,
Yes,
is not going to go home.
not to keep.
Not going to go home at all, according to John Reed
Yeah,
last
you
month.
said not going home at all.
Not to go home at all, according to John Reed last month. Not only not to keep, not going home, period. Now, I'm going to see a B minus when it gets applied to Skyward. I need to call and set an appointment to come in and look at the test. And I'm fine with that, to a degree, I guess. I just think that if they can provide this level of detail, that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
worth
well, that's what's so
exploring.
exciting about these assessments is now we're going to know much more detail about how kids perform than we did before.
I know, but you're using the word we not being the parent.
No, including the parent.
Well, that's our question, is how is the parent going to see this level of detail? I think that's the question that's on the table. And you're saying, they can call and come in for the teacher.
Can I
Go
offer
ahead.
a suggestion?
Yes. I mean, I've offered
all
one, and I
night.
said, just can you find out if we can offer this level of
Yeah,
detail?
and this was the
Here's-
question here, and I says I'm not clear at this point.
Well, you're not clear if we could do it on Skyward, but here's just here's a teacher's perspective. Would it be possible to consider that every exam that is going to be scored, every common assessment that has level 2, 3, and 4 questions on there, I just drew a little box at the top of the assessment that says, points possible. And the box is broken up into level 2, level 3, level 4. It's got the total possible, so when a teacher scores it, they see, okay, when I return Johnny's assessment to him, I'm going to put a 31 here for level 2, I'm going to put a 28 here for level 3, I'm going to put a 5 here for level 4. So right here clear on the assessment, it's broken down into what they got for 2, 3, and 4. And if this is going to become our language of the future, you could even go so far as to look into incorporating a grade tracker in their assignment notebook that already has these types of categories filled in so that the student can say, all right, I got my chemistry test back from Mr. Reed. I'm going to go to my grade tracker in my assignment notebook, and I'm going to put down that on level 2 for the chemistry exam, I got a 31 out of 35. I got a 28 out of 35. And maybe they can't say what it means because that level of detail isn't being, written down. But again, it has it nice, clear, and concise right on the assessment. The student can at least record it down in maybe some type of a grade tracker, and then at least that information has a way of coming home. Now again, if a parent looks at it and clearly understands that level 2 are the basics, and my kid scored really, really low, and I want to call and find out more about that, then so be it. But at least that way, all this detail is there. And then it's not just a percent that they see on Skyward. So if you can't break it down to this level of detail on Skyward, I'm going to encourage that we look into another avenue at least to communicate that. So I'm just throwing this out as a suggestion. It's one way to do it.
Let me
That's a good
let me
idea.
request this. Let me bring this. This is a good curriculum council discussion because I think you really need to involve the teachers in terms of getting their ideas on how this should be done.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now let's. If I could move on to math, and you're going to see a variation of the same theme. So I'm on 3-12. Is everybody with me? Okay, this is what Mary Ann Wentzloff showed on her PowerPoint as an assessment last meeting in May. So again, just a reminder that you have on the first page there largely level 2. You have on the second page levels 3s and 4s, and then finally the last 2 pages are largely level 4 problems. So if you go then to 316, and again this is not an assessment that students have taken yet because it's just been developed, but the same thing basically with John Reed and how they figure the points. So if you look at 3.16, you've got question numbers 1 to 4, and it has level 2 questions, 5 points per question, 20 possible points. Everybody see how that works? All right, so as a teacher would do any, with any assessment, they designate the number of points per question, and you can see when you add these up, there's 100 points. All right, so if a student got 94 of the points, they would get an A because it's 92 to 100 is an A. All right. Now the breakdown of questions by level of difficulty in points, I think, is even more informative. 1 through 6 are considered in this exam to be background and basic or background, and they account for 30 points. The proficient, what we expect minimally all students to be able to do are, you can see the numbers of those questions, and they're 64 points. And then the advanced, and these would be level 4 that are single step, in other words, you either get them or you don't, are 6 points. So I think the concern that was expressed is, well, if a student gets the basic background or the proficient, will they still get an A, but not the advanced? And the answer to that question is yes. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, again, rare is it that when a student tries a level 4 that they get no points for that. So I think that was, I think, an impression that some people had voiced where if you have level 4, it's not fair to include them in the grading, but in actual fact, you can see the way that these are structured that it's important that we do include them.
Now these, I mean, they have 1 point each, so would they go to the extent of giving a quarter or half a point? Would they actually break up the 1?
It's possible, yeah.
I'm not a teacher, but this is a nightmare if I had to grade these papers and do, figure these points by this. I can't imagine.
That's what I do.
It's this complicated?
I mean, I don't teach here, but I can tell you that on my assessments, every question
It's a way to
has different point values depending upon what I'm asking. So I mean, I can relate to this. I really can.
Seems like an awful lot.
Do they do half points? Because like on the last question, it says show your work.
Yeah.
So I'm like wondering, like, if they don't show their work, do they get a half a point? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if they just guess.
What's that?
If they just guess.
Yeah.
And with math, it's pretty black and white in math, but, and so like, it would be easier, but if you're doing LA, and, maybe, or things that might have a little more subjectivity, I think it would just be a nightmare. I don't know, I'm not a teacher, but it just seems like awful.
Well, and something like language arts, you develop a rubric, and those are developed as part of these assessments here. But again, teachers have always been designating points on tests and creating rubrics and all of that. The difference now is that everyone is using, common assessments that have a good distribution of questions on them. So this is not like a categorical change from the way things have been assessed in the past. The point system, they can get partial credit. There's varying degrees of difficulty. It's just more uniform, and every third grade teacher is going to be given the same math assessment for that set of outcomes, and that's why this is so much better.
So then they would just put it along the side how many points and then add it all up?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Kindergarten.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Not okay?
Somewhere here I had a question.
Sure.
I have to go back to figuring out where it was, though. And then if it was here. Okay. Teachers, I think, traditionally have a sense when they administer an assessment